I think the two things to bear in mind you've kind of touched on. One is that both crude oil and European gas markets were already very tight before this crisis started. So we're a lot more sensitive to geopolitical risk than we would be in a well-supplied or an oversupplied market. Second thing is, as you picked up in the opener, we don't think you're going to see direct sanctions targeting Russian energy exports, and we don't think Russia's going to deliberately halt those energy exports. So a bit of an upward move makes sense, but also the fact it's not a huge upward move, given I think those direct risks remain low, even if this crisis and the military side of it escalates further from the events we've seen overnight.
We have seen natural gas flows get turned down a bit, it appears, through the Yamal and other major pipelines. But to your point, Richard, it doesn't appear that Russia, which, whose economy is smaller than Italy or Canada and is really a petrodollar state, can afford to lose the revenue from natural gas, oil, and some of its other commodities. Canada, they don't have economic leverage of any kind.
That's it. I think when you talk about Russian energy flowing into Europe in particular, you've got this mutual dependence. Russia has built up big foreign reserves. It's moved most of those out of dollars into other currencies. It's got buffers in its wealth fund. But those have been built up because of energy prices, and it can ill afford a long period of much lower energy exports, and it can't divert all of the gas and oil that it sells into Europe into other markets, be it China or elsewhere. So I think that dependence works both ways, and it means energy markets have to try and follow this political and military situation, but they also need to keep in context that the most extreme scenarios of disruption are very unlikely even now.
Germany is the most reliant nation on Russian natural gas. Their supplies and inventories are already maybe not at record lows, but close to it. I think storage is under 5% maybe of where it should be. Germany has been pretty silent on this entire situation. What role do they play, and what reaction do you think the world will ultimately have to this move into the eastern Ukrainian regions by Russia? Is there anything the world can do, or do we have to just let it play out and commodity markets are going to do what they do?
Well, I think the West is trying to assemble a united response. It will try and impose pretty harsh penalties. We'll get more out of the US. I think the UK is going to announce some sanctions today. The Europeans will maybe take a little bit longer. And the likelihood is they're going to hold some of the most serious options, potentially financial restrictions, restriction on technology exports that would be damaging to the Russian economy. They'll hold those for a response to further military escalation. I think you do get certain countries in Europe, not only Germany, Italy. The Prime Minister came out earlier over the weekend, said, we don't want energy to be part of any sanctions package. So there are clearly disagreements. The Russians are aware of those disagreements, but I think there is also a recognition amongst NATO members of the need to send a strong message to Russia to try and limit and to try and at least impose penalties for the escalation that we're seeing and the potential escalation ahead.